On YouTube today and realized that I had 19 subscribers, and I thought, what a lot of pressure. I don't know why I didn't know that I had that many. I think I maybe thought I had 11 or 12. And I always like to hear from from the people that I subscribe to and see what they're thinking. So I thought I probably better post another video, because it's been about 3-4 weeks since I posted anything of political nature, and the rest of it, well, if you know, it's creepy. Anyway. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the Mueller report. And for me, this was kind of old news because I knew there was no collusion. If there's no collusion, there really can't be any obstruction. That's a whole nother story, and I think I'll put it on a separate video. But one of the things that really bothered me with regard to the letter that Attorney General Bill Barr put out regarding the Mueller report was that there was a line in there that says something to the effect of, while they're not making any findings about obstruction of justice, they also were not exonerating the president on obstruction of justice. And I kind of had that like record scratch moment. Like, what does he mean? They're not charging him. We were born exonerated in this country. No one is exonerated by a report written by a special counsel who did a hoax investigation, found no collusion, which is what he was investigating, no wrongdoing, and so he didn't evaluate obstruction of justice. Well, the reason he probably didn't evaluate obstruction of justice is because in order to be obstructing justice, there has to be some kind of something that you're trying to obstruct, which if there's no collusion, then him trying to obstruct the investigation of collusion is not really obstruction of justice because there's no collusion. Obstructing an investigation is not the same thing as trying to obstruct justice. And I would argue that according to the letter that I read, he's also saying that no one tried to stop the investigation. And we've had several people, McCabe, Comey, who said no one tried to stop the investigation. So if no one tried to obstruct the investigation and no one tried to obstruct, and there was no finding of wrongdoing to obstruct, then what is there to be exonerated from? I don't know what kind of attorneys these people are. We've got people who are violating attorney-client privilege, nobody mentions it, and now we have another attorney talking about it does not exonerate an innocent person who was born innocent until proven guilty, and there's not even evidence to charge. So why would he make the comment, it does not exonerate him? You don't exonerate people. A prosecutor doesn't exonerate someone. Exoneration is for someone who was maybe charged and then the charges were dropped for lack of evidence. You exonerate someone who was maybe found guilty and then we later determined that they were innocent, but you don't exonerate someone who's literally never been charged or indicted. And I wish the Attorney General would have made this more clear. You know, for the Attorney General, the top lawyer in this country, he did put his findings in there, and I think I wish that he would have, provided a little bit more of an indictment on that statement, and maybe he will at a later time, I don't know, to say, while this is what the special counsel is saying in his report, I'm telling you that you cannot exonerate someone who's literally never even been charged, and there's not evidence to charge them, but yet they're not exonerated. What if someone, started digging into your life and they look around and they don't find anything, but then they're like, well, but you're still not exonerated when the investigation is over. It's over. His investigation was over. It would be one thing if it's ongoing and they say you're not exonerated, you're not exonerated. I would say that would still be a problem, but the investigation is over. So what the heck does he mean, but you're not exonerated? It's literally like a corrupt effort to hang a cloud of suspicion over his head when there was no wrongdoing found, when there was no evidence found of anything. In fact, I don't know if it's mentioned in the letter or not, but the report itself does say that there were several attempts by Russian agents or someone to get the Trump campaign to get involved with them in efforts to, I don't know, collude, whatever that. Collusion's not a crime, so I don't even really know what this means anyway, but I can't even. They turn them down repeatedly. They turn them down. In the law, that's what's called exculpatory evidence. That's what is called evidence that tends to show that you're actually innocent. yet he doesn't exonerate him. You cannot, this is to me kind of like people calling things racist that are not really racist, to say someone's not exonerated when they never were charged with anything. That's not how it works. That's not how this country works. That's not how the legal system works. These are things that literally seem like they have been made up just for President Trump. How can he be obstructing justice when he fired the FBI director, who was a horrible FBI director? And apparently everybody agreed that he had to go until he was gone. Talk about lovers, buyer's remorse, like you don't miss them until they're gone. No one liked Comey. Everybody thought he needed to be fired. So these people, they work for we, the people of the United States of America, and it's almost like everyone forgot that. Whether it's a racial issue or whether it's just somebody like Comey who was just, he was corrupt. If you don't know it yet, you just haven't read up enough about what he's been up to. And you've got Rod Rosenstein, who's recommending that he should be terminated. So it doesn't really matter if there were other things about him that the president didn't like, aside from the legitimate bona fide reasons for him to be fired. So what we the people were supposed to be saddled with a crooked FBI director, so that he could avoid obstructing justice after he's testified that he being fired would not impede the investigation. It doesn't even make any sense. Like, the stuff that people are saying in media is so outrageous and so crazy. Sometimes it makes me want to scream at the TV. And it's just that I understand that that's something that only a crazy person would do, so I don't. I make these videos instead. But honestly, people, like, pay attention to some of the things that they say and just really examine their words closely, because the Mueller investigation was a witch hunt. In this country, they're supposed to have evidence of a crime, and it sounds like they actually had evidence that there was no crime at the time the investigation started. But they launched it in hopes that they could find something and sort of connect pieces together, and then they get all of these people to plead guilty to, like, lying, when it really is, if you look at the documents, a lapse in memory over a long period of time, a perjury trap, if you will. I'm going to do a whole separate video about the whole issue of people pleading guilty. But at this point, I just wanted to say, I'm glad the Mueller witch hunt is over. I would love myself to see the whole report, but if the investigation went like it should, the people who are calling for the release of the entire report might want to rethink that, because it might not reflect very well on them. So who knows what all is in there. Heard there was tons of witnesses, subpoenas, records, so it's over. I really encourage people who don't understand what your rights are to start learning them, brush up on them, because as a civilian, before he became president, Donald Trump had those same rights. And a lot of those rights were violated grossly, not just a little bit. And you can never hate someone so much that you want their rights to be violated, because you will be next. I remember sitting in a court, and I'm going to kind of wrap this up, and there was a guy who was accused of, I think, ongoing molestation of his 14-year-old stepdaughter. And he was in custody awaiting trial, and he refused to waive a lot of constitutional rights, like a right to a speedy trial that you have. And they were on the verge of, at this point, where they had had him held so long and were not ready to proceed to trial, that he was refusing to waive his rights, that they were going to have to dismiss his case. And the judge sort of said, I find good cause to give them one more day and drag it out a little bit longer. And the guy is saying, no, I don't want to. I'm not waiving my rights. And I don't want somebody like that to walk free. But it's more important that the rights that are put in the Constitution are observed by the people that we've given power to, in my opinion. All day, every day, I will fight for that. And shame on that prosecutor, who at that point hadn't even bothered to get a statement from the victim, had literally done nothing, because they expect people to plead guilty so they don't work, who hadn't done anything to protect this kid from this guy just getting out of jail and walking free. And here she is at the 11th hour, not ready for trial. And so at this point, I'm getting to the point where defense attorneys are almost the ones that I respect most. And I never thought I'd see that day, because they are the ones that make sure that even if it means someone guilty has to go free, I am going to fight to make sure that someone innocent doesn't get locked up. And the minute you stop fighting for that, the entire system collapses. It collapses. The Mueller investigation was a collapse of the system. It was a collapse of the Fourth Amendment, of search and seizures. It was a collapse of innocent until proven guilty. All kinds of things. And I hope that people understand that this is not something you want to root for just because you hate someone. It's not worth it, not in the long run. Thanks for listening. Now I'm saying like, share, subscribe, but subscribe brings the pressure, but I hope you do anyway. Thanks for listening.